Welcome back to Brojo Online YouTube channel, and we're going to do another Ask Dan Anything question today about relationships. So here's one that comes up all the time. Okay, so I've got a blog post about men not initiating sex and not being leaders in the relationship, and that went kind of viral, and I get emails almost every single day from women who have read that and want support. Now my response to them is always pretty much the same, which is, I can work with you personally on your shit, but I can only help you with your relationship if your guy is on board. So first you have to talk to him, and you have to see if he's okay with change and support and coaching and stuff like that, because if he's not, I can't do shit for your relationship. And I want to talk a little bit about why I respond like that. So I'm going to be specifically talking about a woman trying to work on the relationship and the guy resisting. Okay, that heterosexual dynamic, but it can go the other way too, right? But this is how I see it almost all the time. So the woman leads the search for change and support and coaching and counseling or whatever for their relationship. And in my experience, she's often like right at the like end of her rope at this stage. Like the relationship has gotten really, really bad by the time she's actually looking for help. It's not like at the early warning sign stage, it's in the we're almost going to break up stage. Which as a general rule is one of the problems, is you've left it too late. But if that's when you're doing it, then that's when you're doing it. That's the best you can do. I want to give a little background of this, something that I picked up from David Data in his book, The Way of the Superior Man. The difference between the masculine and the feminine approach to relationships. Now the feminine, I don't mean female, I mean feminine. There are feminine guys as well, but generally they're women. Feminine minds, they prioritize connection. So something like their main romantic relationship and their kids will be their number one priority over everything else. So when it comes to relationship issues and getting those solved, investing in coaching and doing work around this kind of stuff, it comes naturally to them. It's something they're happy to throw themselves into because it's their number one priority. But the masculine doesn't prioritize connection and relationships. It's really painful for the feminine to acknowledge this. But the masculine, like if you're in a relationship with a masculine guy, you are not his top priority. Okay, his mission is, he is his own top priority. You might interpret this as independent problem solving, being the problem solver, the leader. That's the priority, and that comes actually above relationships. So relationships either end up becoming second place or even worse, like that typical workaholic CEO who neglects his kids, or the guy wants to fix it by himself. He doesn't want support, he doesn't want intervention, he doesn't want help. Because his priority is for him to be the man, right? And to accept support goes against that. To sort of spread that out a little bit further, there's a number of reasons why guys will say, no, I don't want to work on this, or no, I don't want to bring in someone to help us with this. A key one is just denial. Now this can actually sometimes, a lot of this can be on the responsibility of the woman. Like if you've been in a relationship, you've been complaining about things in the relationship since day one, he's not going to take any new complaints seriously. He's going to think, look, no matter what I do, I can't win, right? So if you start saying, we need to work on this, he's going to be in denial because there's always something to work on, and nothing he does makes a difference. Or he could be in denial because this is an ongoing issue that you've actually been really good about, but he just doesn't want to admit to it. And this is really common with sexual issues. A guy just doesn't want to admit that he's less than a man in the bedroom. So getting help with it, outside support, would mean it's at a certain level of problem, and he doesn't want to admit that he's there. Okay. Secondly, it could be lack of interest. Some guys just don't give a shit. Okay. I think they're a rare portion. Most guys who are deeply invested in a relationship, a serious one, do care about it. But there are some who are narcissistic or arrogant or psychopathic, or they only stay in the relationship because of some sort of pressure they put on themselves. They don't actually care if it works out or not. They're kind of hoping you'll end it, or it doesn't matter if you do. Another one is just resistance to change, fear of the unknown. What would happen if this problem was solved? It might be harder for him than the current comfortable lifestyle. A lot of people are comfortable with the status quo, even if it kind of sucks. For example, if you've got a really like sexless relationship, some guys might hate it, but at the same time they're used to it. Suddenly becoming some sex god, it seems like this really big, overwhelming kind of change for them, and they just don't know where that's going to end up. They don't know where you'll end up, whether you'll still like them afterwards, and so on. Of course, like I've already mentioned, resistance to support. You know, after working in the self-development industry for quite some time, I see a clear trend that women are far more likely to go to workshops and get therapy and get coaching, whereas guys are far more likely to buy a do-it-yourself book or watch their own videos or try and make it up on their own. You know, for women who prioritize connection, getting support from others is just natural to them. They've done it their whole lives with their friends and family. For guys, they've always been doing it on their own, so they're just resistant to stepping into that feminine space and admitting their weakness. And they usually better this. They usually beat this with their better ideas concept. They're like, nobody can help me more than I can help myself. I've got a better way. Let's try this. Let's try that. Let's do that. They often don't follow through on any of these ideas, but just having the idea gives them such a dopamine rush that they feel no need to actually follow through with any further change. Sometimes it can just be too much to handle. The question that actually prompted me to do this video is from someone who's in a relationship with a guy who's just finished recovery from drug addiction. He's still in recovery, I guess. And he just has a lot on his plate and he's just overwhelmed, and further support and coaching or working on the relationship is just too much extra right now. If you've just had kids or you just bought a business or something, working on this on top of that might just be too many plates to spin, and he needs some comfort for a while. And the last one I've got here is blame. He might blame you for the problems. And he might also be afraid that if the two of you are to work with someone like me, he's going to be the one who gets the blame. It's going to all be pointed on him, and this huge burden is going to be put on his shoulders that he feels is unfair. What I find is when there's problems in the relationship, each person always thinks it's the other person who's causing it, you know? And you'd be surprised at how often it really is just 50-50. Whatever you think he's doing wrong, you're doing your own percentage as well. Unfortunately, if these barriers are coming up and the guy refuses to work through them, there's no openness to change, then usually the opposite happens. Not only does it stay the same, it actually gets worse. So whatever you're experiencing right now, if your guy is not open to change, you can expect that to keep escalating, whatever the problem is, okay? So if you're not having enough sex, it's going to end up being no sex. If you're not talking, it's going to end up being total silence. If it's aggression and poor argument technique, then it's going to end up being big fights. You know, that's if someone's not open to change. They're actually going to bounce against change. They're going to be resistant and go the other way and get themselves into a rut. One of the biggest issues is that women will often make empty threats. There's no consequence for the guy not making a change here. There's no real extrinsic motivation for him to work on the relationship because you've shown so much that you're just going to put up with it. So there's no real fear for him. He's not more afraid of change than he is of staying the same. Did I say that right? He's more afraid of change than he is of things staying the same. And people who aren't open to change, they need to be brought into a crisis for anything to happen. And this is where it gets really rough. When somebody comes back to me from one of these emails and says, yeah, I talked to him about it, he's just not willing to do anything, my next response is really one of two. You either accept him as the way he is and getting worse, and that's your lot, you tolerate that, and you never complain about it again, or you leave him. Those are the only two options really available to you if he's not currently willing to change. Okay, there is no magical third option where some fairy comes and sprinkles dust over him and everything's good. You know, his past behavior will predict his future behavior. If he's been bad for a while, it's going to get worse. And you saying, like, if we don't do something, I'll leave, isn't the same as leaving. It's an empty threat. He knows it. And the less often that you follow through on that thread, the less weight that any of your consequences will ever have for him. There's no proof that this is going to get better for him, so there's no real reason to rock the boat. So you have to accept him or leave. And if you leave, it might create the crisis you need. When I do end up working with couples, it's usually right after they've actually broken up. Because that's the first time the guy's like, holy shit, she means it. Like, I'm going to lose her if I don't get my shit together. You know, he's seen evidence of it. And then he's willing to sort of prioritize the relationship again. He finally gets a sense of how important this relationship is to him. So, you can get help by yourself as well if you're not willing to go that harsh and ruthless on it. I recommend you do go that ruthless on it, or otherwise you're going to be miserable forever. But that's your life. You decide. But be prepared. You know, so many women come to me saying, my guy is the problem. And I always go back to them saying, well, you're at least 50% of it. You won't be able to see your bit, but he will. And so if I'm going to work with the two of you, it's not going to be working on him to make him better for you. It's going to be working on both of you. Okay? So you can go and get the help by yourself, because whatever got you into this relationship, that's your shit to deal with. However it is you react to him that's unhelpful, that's your shit to deal with. Whatever made you attracted to this guy in the first place when he's clearly not an ideal fit, that's your shit to deal with. So, I hope that helps. I made this video because I imagine I'm going to be sending it out a lot instead of the constant email response. Take some time to think it through. Relationships, long-term ones with children, everything, they're a big deal. Serious stuff. You can't fuck around with it. Subscribe if you enjoyed that. And of course, join the Brojo crew. There's a link below if you want to get more stuff sent directly to you and all of our members only goodies. And I'll see you for the next one. Cheers.